Did you know that there's a deadly disease that not only can it kill you, but also live on a countertop for up to 3 weeks and still infect you? And we'll find out more about this deadly killer and other ways to protect yourself against bloodborne pathogens right after the channel intro. Remember, only you can ensure you and your family's survival. Live your life with honor and integrity, and always be the wolf hunter, don't be the sheep, and never be the wolf. Welcome, I'm an avid prepper and oath keeper, and I'm certified to teach the use of deadly force. If you want to learn actual prepping skills and how to protect yourself legally, then please subscribe and also click the bell icon so you won't miss whenever a video is released. We're in this together, so welcome to this community. So I think that during SHTF that there's going to be a lot of people that's going to accidentally cause themselves to die a slow and painful death because they don't have enough knowledge about bloodborne pathogens, and also because of things that they have seen on television. Now, my job has me constantly being aware of bloodborne pathogens. I mean, it would be bad enough if I accidentally caught a disease from a drug addict, but it would be even worse if I accidentally brought it home and exposed my family to it. And really, until you work as an emergency responder or in healthcare, many people just don't realize just how many people that do actually walk around us that are infected with life-threatening communicable diseases. But also at the end of this video, I'm going to tell you a little personal story that happened to me. Something that happened to me while I was at work and has to do with bloodborne pathogens and how I thought I was a dead man. Something that made me realize just how serious this topic really is. But first, just in case you don't know what bloodborne pathogens are, let's first answer the question, just what are bloodborne pathogens? Bloodborne pathogens are infectious microorganisms found in the blood that can be passed from one person to another person through various means, such as coming into contact with an infected person's blood, or sharing needles, or sexual contact, etc. Now let's answer the question, what are the most common bloodborne pathogens? The most common ones that we have in the United States right now are hepatitis B, hepatitis C, and the HIV virus. Now, since I'm married and faithful, and obviously I don't partake of any kind of drug use, for me, I'm very concerned about the hepatitis C virus, because this virus is reported to be able to live outside of the human body for up to 3 weeks in room temperature on, let's say, something like a countertop. So for instance, let's say the SHTF has happened, and you leave your home for a couple of hours to forage for food or whatever. And while you're gone, somebody with hepatitis C breaks into your house. And when he breaks into your house, he accidentally cuts or injures himself. And just a tiny droplet of his blood drips onto your countertop. And it's such a tiny droplet of blood that you don't even notice it. So the hepatitis C from this guy can actually live on your countertop in that small blood stain for supposedly up to 3 weeks. And if during that 3 weeks you inadvertently touch that countertop with the live virus on it, and then you rub your eye, if something like that happens, then you just may have introduced that hepatitis C virus into your body. Now, the scenario that I just mentioned probably has a low probability of actual transmission happening, but I think it's something to be aware of and to take extra precautions with. Now, hepatitis C can obviously be spread through blood, but it can also be spread through sexual contact, sharing needles, and other risky behaviors. And if you contract hep C, you can develop internal bleeding, and it also destroys your liver and also causes liver cancer. And hepatitis B can also be contracted much the same way as hepatitis C, such as sex with an infected partner, or the sharing of dirty needles, or the sharing of razors or toothbrushes, etc. And like any of the hepatitis elements, it too can also wreak havoc on your liver. And of course, there's HIV that everybody knows about, which is spread through blood and sex and risky behaviors, pretty much just like the hepatitis viruses are. And while the HIV virus can live outside of the body for up to 6 days if situations are absolutely perfect, it's my understanding that once the blood dries or is getting exposed to light and air, that they actually start dying off pretty quickly, making transmission that way pretty unlikely. But here's my main concern with bloodborne pathogens and SHTF. Let's say you end up in hand-to-hand combat with somebody who is infected with one of the hepatitis viruses or the HIV virus. And then once you're causing him to start to bleed, if you yourself suffer wounds that cause you to bleed, and if his blood gets onto one of your cuts or injuries, then he can infect you. Now one may say, hey, I'll never get into a physical confrontation during SHTF. I'll just shoot him. But that kind of thinking is short-sighted because there's just too many variables to be able to say that you'll never get ambushed by surprise and end up being forced to enter into hand-to-hand combat. And right now in regular times, people who contract these diseases are many times able to live a long time and manage the disease. But if SHTF happens and we don't have access to today's medical care, I think many of these diseases will be death sentences. But one thing that I've learned is there's a lot of people that will mimic what they see on television and in the movies. In Hollywood, there's many times where the hero is not afraid to end up being covered in the villain's blood. Or when somebody goes to help an injured person, they'll get that person's blood all over them in the process. And this just drives me nuts when I see it. But like on The Walking Dead, when they cover themselves with the zombies' blood in order to mask themselves from the zombies. If that were real life, and of course obviously it's a fake Hollywood TV series, but if that were reality, those characters would start developing illnesses within a couple of days of having covered themselves in that blood, and they would start dropping like flies. But anyways, to keep this video at a reasonable time, I won't even go into the other illnesses that can be spread, such as the Zika virus or the fact that during SHTF that the plague could come back or whatever else is out there. And I also don't even want to go into all the other pandemics that could strike us during SHTF, like some kind of bird flu. I want to keep this video geared towards blood-borne pathogens, especially the ones that are the most common in the United States right now, and the ones that would already be here when SHTF hits, and that would rise with the loss of medical care and with the loss of social offices that constantly try to fight the spread of them within high-risk populations. Now, I think this next illness needs a mention even though it's not a bloodborne pathogen, and that's tuberculosis, also called TB. Again, while TB isn't a bloodborne pathogen, it's actually a bacterium that affects a person's lungs and can spread through the air from one person to another, especially when the affected person coughs or talks, etc. Now, I think TB needs a mention because it is closely linked to overcrowding and malnutrition. So if during SHTF you have people who spend time in refugee camps or have huddled together in abandoned houses, and then they end up wandering into your bug out location or your prepper retreat, they could be potentially exposing you and your prepper group to that airborne disease. So the way to protect yourself from bloodborne pathogens is to be very cautious of other people's blood and bodily fluids and not letting them come into contact with your skin, especially cuts or abrasions on your skin, and by using protective equipment if you have it, such as gloves and masks and eye protection, etc. And I have a very simple saying that gets used a lot in bloodborne pathogen training that sums up protecting yourself pretty nicely. The saying goes like this: if it's wet and sticky and doesn't come from your body, then don't touch it. So now I'm going to go ahead and tell you the story now about what happened to me at work over a decade ago. One time I had arrested a guy for trespassing in a business, and this guy ended up having a backpack. Now, of course, his backpack had to go with him to the jail, so before he went to jail we had to search that backpack. So I was in a hurry, and I was also a little bit irked because we had to fight the guy. So because I was irked, I just started blindly reaching into his backpack to get it emptied out quicker so I could inventory its contents and get it all back in and just get him shipped off to jail. Anyways, while I was quickly and blindly reaching into this guy's backpack, I suddenly felt something prick one of my fingers. And once I felt that poke, I quickly yanked my hand out of there, and my heart sank when I saw that little drop of blood starting to form on my fingertip. Right then, my life started flashing before my eyes as I imagined myself laid up on a hospital bed and dying from some kind of a disease that I had caught from accidentally sticking myself with a dirty needle. Now luckily, when I inspected the inside of that backpack a little bit closer, I found that it was actually a safety pin that had come undone and not an actual hypodermic needle. But even though it ended up being a safety pin and not a dirty needle, that really drove home the point to me about being more careful about this stuff. And since then, I've arrested many thieves and criminals who have had dirty hypodermic needles on them. But now, after that lesson, I definitely know better than to reach blindly into any space that I cannot see. So folks, again, I purposely didn't want to get too technical in this video. I just wanted to keep it simple, and I wanted to stick with mainly bloodborne pathogens that are prevalent in our society right now and will almost certainly skyrocket when SHTF happens. And I just wanted to give you the bare bones of the subject, just enough that would be easy to remember and enough to give you something to think about and to also realize how serious and deadly this stuff can be, and also how this stuff can affect you even if you don't get somebody else's blood directly from their body onto your body. And of course, there's many other diseases and illnesses that will strike during SHTF. But again, I wanted to keep this video narrowed to bloodborne pathogens. While I enjoy making these videos for pennies on the hour, I am wishing to purchase better video and editing equipment that will allow me to make better quality videos for you all without actually putting me into debt to make the videos. So if you have the disposable income, please consider joining my Patreon video channel, where for just $1 a month you'll get early access to videos and also receive special prepper and naturally made gifts from time to time and other exclusive Patreon member rewards when they become available. To help support our community, please subscribe and hit the like button. Please comment below. Please share this video on social media. And please make sure you have the bell icon hit for notifications of when videos are released. Anyways, folks, if you made it this far, thank you very much for watching. And I pray that you have a good night.